listening to Opening the Harp Chakra, the podcast, bringing you beautiful, healing, magical harp music and talking with the artists that create it. I'm your host, Jay Michaels. Thank you for joining us today. Our guest is in Berlin, Germany. Her latest CD was released in 2020. It is State of Affairs in English, but in German, Stand der Dinge. We're so happy to have her on the podcast, Merit Zloch. Hi, Merit.
Hello, and I'm very happy to be here, and I thank you very much for inviting me to this very interesting program of yours.
Thank you. It's so nice to be able to talk to you. Can we begin with how, when, why you started to play the harp?
This is indeed a very interesting story that is a little bit romantic as well, because I grew up in the GDR, and there were some radio programs where there was folk music, or let's say one kind of small radio feature about folk music every week. And a friend of mine recorded for me some harp music, which was wire-strung harp, which I only learned to know later. And I fell in love with this piece and with the sound of the harp. And then the wall came down, and we could travel. And on my first travel in 1991 to England, indeed, to a class exchange with a school class north from London. We did many day trips to smaller towns and interesting places around, and went to Cambridge as well. And there was a music shop in Cambridge, and in the window of this music shop, there were about 15 small Celtic harps. And I thought, oh my God, this must be a sign for me. And when I went back to my hometown, I started getting harp lessons, which was not easy in those days. And so it was, again, a big coincidence, because just a month before, they had at the music school at the conservatory in Rostock, which is by the Baltic Sea, they had started harp lessons. And so I took classical harp training lessons for 2 years, and then started studying in another town. And since then, I kind of started self-learning the music I wanted to learn, which was not classical music, and going to workshops and stuff.
So, Merit, your new CD released in 2020 is Stand der Dinge. Will you please pick out a track and introduce it for us?
Okay, so the first piece we are going to hear is called Reise ins Labyrinth, which is Journey into the Labyrinth, and it is on my latest solo CD that came out just before Christmas last year and has been recorded in August and September last year. And it kind of sums up what I have been making the last 12 years as a solo harpist. It's compositions or arrangements from German music, German dance music, from manuscripts. I think I'm going to talk about this later a little bit more. And I felt that I should record all the stuff I made, or the best music, in my opinion, I made in the last 12 years. And so I did. So you can buy this CD now, and I'm very happy about this. And this is an original composition of mine, this Reise ins Labyrinth, Journey into the Labyrinth. And I do use a bray pin slider. Perhaps I think to keep the tension up a bit, I'm not going to tell you now what it is. You will hear it in the next piece. And it's not something very modern, but it's Baroque. So enjoy Reise ins Labyrinth.
from Merit Zloch, the album Stand der Dinge, the tune in English, Journey into the Labyrinth. I love the sound you're getting from that harp. The bray pins are very cool.
Yeah, I always was in love with the sound of bray pins on medieval and Renaissance harps, but you can't get rid of it if you have adjusted them once. And this was always kind of disturbing me a little bit because it's really a lot of fiddling around with those small devices, and then you are not allowed to touch them anymore. And what I wanted was something to switch on and off. And all harp makers told me this is impossible. And then about 12 years ago, I think it was, we went to the town of Bamberg in Franconia in southwestern Germany, which is a lovely little university town famous for its beer. And I went there to drink beer, to try the different brands of beer they make there with some friends. And we passed by an antique shop and spotted a Baroque harp in the window, a diatonic Baroque harp. And we were like, wow, what is this? And my partner spied a little kind of device somewhere up on the harp that looked really strange. And he looked at it, and he's a bagpipe maker, a very good one from Berlin. And so he is a little bit into instruments and devices and key systems and stuff, and said, this must be a braid pin slider. And I was like, oh my God. And so we went into this shop, and my partner, Matthias Branschke, found out where this braid pin slider originally sat on the harp. And the owners of this shop were so nice to allow my harp maker, Pepe Weisgaber, also from Berlin, to make a drawing of the entire Baroque harp and to make copies of it and of the braid pin slider as well. And it worked. And it's even adjustable to other types of harps. And so this is a distortion device from the early 18th century, a Baroque distortion device. Works totally acoustically, and we adjusted it to my Bohemian lever harp. That would be slightly later, and the good thing is I can switch it on and off while playing. There are about 5 harps in collections and museums that have such a braid pin slider, and they are all from the early 18th century. So yeah, that's the braid pin slider. It looks a little bit like a comb that you can slide on the soundboard of the harp, and it has 2 positions. One is on and one is off.
How about another track from the CD? What would you like to feature?
The next piece will be Zustand Sardine, which is state of sardine, like the small fishes in a tin that are lying next to each other on the ground, or in this case in the tin. And I made it for a friend as a birthday present years and years ago because we had such a nice party at his birthday, and 3 days of musicians partying together in his parents' garden. And on the 3rd day, of course, we had played lots of sessions and had been dancing and eating and drinking and had a good time. And then we were just laying in the sun on the ground like sardines. And that's why it's called Zustand Sardine, state of sardine.
Stand der Dinge. That's excellent. I mean, your use of dynamics, of timing, syncopation, so well done, and such a nice groove at the end of that piece.
Thank you a lot. It's a little bit a type of bal folk, very bluesy mazurka. You can dance to it as well, if you want to.
So, Merit, what inspires you musically?
It's good to talk about this at this very moment, because dance music from Central Europe and Western Europe inspires me a lot. And I've been a lot listening to music and dancing in the so-called bal folk scene over here, which is a kind of disco style traditional par dancing thing. And I think you will have it in the US as well. And this bal folk scene is more about a kind of melting together, kind of more like tango style environment. And also it's not in folk costumes, but people go there just like to a club or something and do couple dances, sometimes also group dances. And there's a whole new world of music to be discovered as well in this scene, because people take either old melodies from their traditions or from dance music manuscripts of their regions or of other regions, or make new compositions, original compositions, and the arrangements are rather kind of poppy and popular music, like a little bit of jazz, a little bit of blues, a little bit of pop music. And that's very nice, in my opinion, because it makes this old music change and live on without conserving it. Like other scenes do it, which I also like, but in this case, this is more my kind of party, so to say. And I am also very inspired by our research on German dance music manuscripts. There is a lot of it, although people didn't believe so until a couple of years. There has been a big movement in the 70s already of people in Eastern and Western Germany rediscovering old dance music from their own regions and from their manuscripts and old songs. And this revival continues until today, and more stuff is discovered. And I am part of a group of people who do research in archives and also publish this music, our favorite melodies, and also run a YouTube channel where you can listen and learn German traditional dance music from manuscripts. So if you are interested in this, perhaps you can link it in the end. I guess there are many people interested in this stuff. And I take those melodies, and they are mostly quite interesting and beautiful, and make them themes of own arrangements. And we will hear an example of this later on, which is actually for harp, which is quite rare. There is very few stuff for our traditional lever harp that's really composed for the instruments. With this dance music manuscripts, we sometimes do not know what it was written down for. It's mostly violin, but sometimes it's also flute. And sometimes we don't know it because they didn't write the instruments to it. It's like a kind of lick book, or perhaps a little bit like a band playing popular music today. You don't need a full score or something. You have a melody and some themes, and then you know where to go for.
Let's listen to another track from the CD Stand der Dinge. 26th of September. Can you describe this piece for us?
Yes, it was in the dance music manuscripts. It was common to have pieces called like Angloise, the 24th of February or something. And I made a new Angloise for a friend's birthday as well. So this is the second birthday tune today. And decided to call it as they did in the old manuscripts, Angloise, den 26. September. So that's the date of the birthday in this fact. And it's a little bit inspired by Anglesen from the manuscripts, but only a tiny little bit. I took it more to some other corner of music.
For our last selection, Marie, this is from your harp duo, Two Bohemian Harps. Would you please tell us more about this?
Oh, yes. I had two harp duos. The first split up because my duo partner went to study in Sweden, and then I found another one, and that's still alive and kicking. My duo partner is Daniela Heiderich, also from Germany, and she studied traditional music in France. And we met at a workshop weekend and liked to play together. And so I asked her if she would make a harp duo with me. And so we did. And I think we met in 2016 or 15 and arranging music together for two harps, using mostly traditional material from the manuscripts, original compositions as well. We also do have a CD called Abfahrt in 5 Minuten, which is departure in 5 minutes, which would be a typical thing you hear on German train stations because we're traveling so much. And this next piece that you are going to hear, I've been talking about this Anglesen, kind of English is the translation. It's French-German word from the 19th century for English dance. So apparently there was a big fashion for this Anglesen, and there's lots of this type of music in dance music manuscripts and in leather harp manuscripts as well. So this piece is original music for leather harp, but only parts of it. There was a guy called Anton Gottlieb Heise in Thuringia. No, it's not true. Saxony-Anhalt in Halle. That's a university town, 400 kilometers south of Berlin. And he wrote a tutorial for leather harp in 1822. And it's really fun to read because he's complaining about how badly harp is played. Everyone is playing it and everyone is relying on the beautiful sound. And no one really cares about how he or she is playing. Mostly women, I must say, in those days. But he can teach, of course, the best way to play the harp. And he not only gives interesting instructions how to play these historical harps, but also gives some pieces to play. And of course, lots of Anglesen because this was fashion then. And I made a second, more like early 19th century, a second voice for this in the first part of this arrangement of ours of the Anglesen, and then it goes wilder and wilder and wilder. I hope you will enjoy it. So this is partly an original piece for leather harp from Germany from 1822 and partly an invention of the harp duo Zirla.
It sounds like you had a lot of fun recording that.
Oh my God, yes. Yeah, it was really nice. We recorded it with a harp player who has a studio, which is a perfect match. And he has a tiny little house in the forest in northern Germany. And it's full of harps and recording equipment. It's Ralf Kleemann. So if you ever are looking for a good harpist or a good harp recording engineer in Germany, you could come back to him. And we did have a lot of fun because because the piece is so nice, and we were in a tiny little cabin in this house, so we nearly could not move, and so we were very close to each other. And this was really, really nice to be so close, and also quite funny because you always had to be careful not to bump into each other with the harps and stuff. Yeah, this was really fun.
We're including links to your website, Facebook, and YouTube in the show notes of the podcast. Thank you so much for being here. Dankeschön.
Bitteschön. Das war sehr schön.
It was just so great talking to you, and I love the CD.
Hey, cool. Thank you. This was fun.
If you have questions, guest suggestions, please email me at openingtheharpchakra@yahoo.com. We've also included links to PayPal and Venmo if you'd like to contribute to the production of this podcast. Thank you so much for being here. Please subscribe, please share, please tell your friends. And in the coming weeks, more beautiful harp music from around the world. I'm Jay Michaels. Thank you. Peace. Namaste.